So the main thing you're looking for is which team is going to be able to control the speed. Dallas wants to play Ramontra, which has been a very, very strong tank here in this composition, in this patch so far. Meanwhile, Wrecking Ball, we've seen a lot of. We saw a Wrecking Ball versus Wrecking Ball combination back between or rather, I should say, a Wrecking Ball between UT Dallas and CSU Long Beach when there was Boltaro on the Wrecking Ball. Dallas handled that pretty well in a 3-1 series, but can they handle Rhino is the different story.
I'm thinking top Wrecking Ball players in Collegiate. I think Rhino easily top 2 when it comes to that particular tank hero. And I was going to say, we also have Phone here. She loves that Sombra, but instead is going to roll out on the Pharah. Instead, taking to the skies to apply some aerial pressure. Difference neither of those heroes. We're going to see the kill feed first. It's Otters getting their Lucio counterpart out of the picture. UT Dallas were never able to make it through that initial choke. The speed of UC Irvine's comp completely denying them a first fight altogether.
Yeah, and UC Irvine's composition is going to be really, really hard for Dallas to work off of because now they finally get to switch onto Ramontra, but with Ramontra, you're mainly looking only at your front. You didn't have to look at so many angles because the only other angle you had to look at would be a Genji. This time around for Dallas, now you got multiple angles just like Irvine has. Problem is, a Wrecking Ball is a lot more mobile than the D.Va is.
Yeah, especially here, you're going to have the Tracer and Mashiro to follow up. I'm actually surprised we're not seeing Sai. Sai, a lot of the times, plays more for UC Irvine, but Mashiro comes in as kind of this Tracer specialist, but really has quite a few flexible muscles, too. So having him in this mix certainly is an asset to UC Irvine, and UT Dallas still not having much luck approaching this team fight. It's all Mashiro, these blank melees, one after another, and it's just right in UT Dallas, leaving him with a bit of a concussion after that.
Yeah, but look who's closest to the ultimate percentage anyways. Rhino's been doing so much, and you expect some ball players to be going on off angles, but no, this Wrecking Ball is actually playing with the team once they find a dive target on. You saw that with Kashir getting out of mech super, super early on, and just the rest of the team falling down thanks to Mashiro at the same time. So you have the mines, you have the pulse bomb available. Nothing on the side of UT Dallas besides the keeping the rush. Ramosa's got to do a lot more than that, though.
Well, Mashiro just got flattened, so not a great start for UC Irvine. It is a chance for UT Dallas to start taking some space. Early hack onto Rhino. He's going to just opt to roll away. Minefield the point, deny UT Dallas from forcing this objective positioning. And instead, making Hermosa pop the Kitsune Rush outside of the point, fighting in that direction. And UCI had no problem popping a sound barrier, kiting out, waiting for it to be over, and re-engaging with KHD's own Kitsune Rush, right? Laying out that red carpet. UT Dallas obviously want nothing to do with it. They want to take this fight on their own terms, and those are Phone's terms. EMP is out. Rhino can't exactly roll away if it's not an option, and UC Irvine are still managing to hold on to this objective. They got at least final fight territory. Should they manage to throw it off, the next L still thinks it's relatively winnable. Overclock into the fray, eventually burned down. Eric matching this Tracer gameplay. UT Dallas, first sign of life on this objective, and at least get some percentage going. Well, at least you would think that until Kashir kind of overstepped. Wanted to chase down some of these UC Irvine players who were staggering themselves, but instead getting caught out. No tank presence here, and UT Dallas suddenly, this contest got a lot harder than you would think. Rhino isn't going anywhere anytime soon, Keegan.
Yeah, I mean, you can. Yes, you now have to switch on over to the Doomfist instead, and it's a regroup, but Irvine doing an excellent job of a stagger, especially on the mines there to reset the clock, and now it's Excal in so much trouble.
Yeah, Kashir off on an island, and UC Irvine brought the party all the way to him. UT Dallas, this might be a short-lived control if this is the direction Otters and Mashiro are taking this fight. Dominated the space, denying a UTD entrance at any approach that they took, even with Phone swapping the Sombra, very quick to building up the ESP. Even that simply cannot turn the tides when UCI Irvine are the Wrecking Ball team in Collegiate.
Yeah, Irvine is just running rampant here with UT Dallas. Yeah, Dallas couldn't get a foothold at all, and it just snowballed away after that very first fight against the Ramontra. You knew that, again, Dallas didn't have a lot of angles to go off of and play with, so they swapped on over to as many characters as they could to get there. They had the Lucio, you had the Kiriko, but you needed to be the ones to aggress. Your only problem is with Irvine being so much more aggressive on the Wrecking Ball Tracer Kiriko Lucio combination. Yes, if you want to catch up Excal, that's fine. You still got to worry about 4 potential threats on that end as well. And with the Wrecking Ball absolutely just dominating faction, dominating all of that space, separating the team when needed, Dallas just had no shot at this. So we approach Sanctum now in what is kind of a dead, I mean, Dallas's back is against the wall already. They need to find a way to stop this Wrecking Ball, whether or not that would be a Roadhog or something like that, because you don't have an auto to worry about. But instead, Rhino playing a Winston instead, because there's not a lot of value in a Wrecking Ball here on Sanctum.
No, and Rhino, again, equally good at the Winston as the Wrecking Ball is, so it's not too much of a switch up for UC Irvine. Love to to see what UT Dallas opts to do here. Kashir has to play more defensive. Kind of the fear of Rhino just inting into his backline at any point is a little scary. Even Phone caught out through the invisibility. Rhino making sure she's sent back to the spawns, and UCI just one pick will get a cap.
Yeah, already one pick, but that's the big one too. That's the Sombra, and Sombra's not going to have a really good time against this Winston as well, especially if this Winston's just going to dive in and making sure that there's so much space being taken too. This D.Va can do all you want, but you can't really defense matrix a lot of electric, and yes, it may be quote-unquote a counter dive, but the way Irvine is playing right now, they're playing to take space, they're playing to make sure that nobody can enter any space or separate out the team. Irvine's playing so together right now that even one kill is going to force a fight back from UT Dallas, because there's no way you're coming back.
You can even notice, too, that Phone can't really get these angles off. It's a nice hack and virus. There's a reason she's so good at this Sombra, but the follow-up not even needed there. Eric and Phone working together with the help of Uber Eats and kind of acting as, well, the Uber. I can see why the name is certainly fitting for UTD's main support player, and it should get them some forward progress. You see Irvine do manage to get this point percentage a little bit higher, though, before the clip comes in.
Yeah, you're finally able to find somebody on the off angle. Otters was caught up a little bit too far into the side room, and that's where Phone was kind of waiting. So she's actually giving themselves a little bit of an open area. Now you have an EMP, you have a Kitchen Rush to work off of as well. Pulse Bomb, you just cannot land though.
Ooh, but the EMP, that's going to land onto 3. XCal and Otters turned into dust. Shiro still opting to commit the Pulse Bomb, though. I believe that's ended up sticking on the outside of the objective, not quite finding its target. So UT Dallas, suddenly that EMP, as good as it was, things are starting to slip out of their control, and Rhino instead is the one in control, but out of his emotions. Primal Rage completely cleared any sign of a UTD player off the objective. Kashir is down, and the sound barrier from Uber Eats perhaps a little bit too late. You see Irvine happy to respond to their own just to make sure the cap is theirs again.
Yeah, if I'm UT Dallas right now, I'm kind of just praising any god right now that they actually used the sound barrier on the other end, because that sound barrier was just a dagger and to hold on as long as possible, but because it flipped so quickly, Irvine also invested a sound barrier may be kind of a saving grace, but you now also have an overclock to worry about. Not much on UC Irvine sides that, but you will have a self-destruct to try to clear point. Keeps it in rush to even get you there in the first place, and maybe this time it won't be off point like it was on Village.
As a port ult is one of the best ways to take space, so UT Dallas are going to use it just to completely clear the opposite side of this objective. You don't really want to stand on the point for Sanctum unless you can clear the high ground, but can't quite do that. XCal's overclock, rather scary to make eye contact with, especially with the overdrive perk. There's Ramosa's head whipped clean off of their shoulders. UT Dallas, they don't have any healing. Look how these health bars are struggling on the side. UC Irvine, it's a quick cleanup. This is final fight territory, and I don't even think UTD get a full touch.
I mean, Phone's off the map too. They might not even, they're not even going to try. I mean, Uber is also off the map as well, so they're just staggered all over the place.
Yeah, it's only Kashir remaining. Pulse Bomb onto the mech. Mashiro making quick work of things on the Tracer. Such a treat to get to see him play on his signature hero. UC Irvine gonna go ahead, close out Nepal. Clean 2-0.
Yeah, and I think the big thing too is that shows you that Dallas is relying on this hazard, because that was the first ban from UC Irvine as well.
Soldier?
So they were banning it out. And now we're, hey, legs in play. X-Scout can't play as Sojourn, so why not play the other soul, I guess, like Soldier 76 instead. But already, look, again, Rhino going quickly in, already taking out Uber Eats.
Uber Eats just tried to disguise himself as like a lantern hanging from the ceiling, and XCal was having none of that. Like even Rhino popped on a ball for midair. It's like, what's happening over here? This is just UC Irvine again, taking the pro action. Not sure what was going through the mind of XCal there, but at least UCI have the cap for now.
I mean, I think XCal was going for Uber Eats back there. I think it was going for the final blow, and then instead a jagged wall appeared in his face, so that's good news, except for the fact that Uber Eats is now dead by the counterpart.
Uber is just not having a good time
No.
at all. Has been getting bullied, whether by its Otters or XCal or Rhino. They just want to make the Lucio's life miserable. Phone doing her best here on this Sombra, and has had some good viruses help set up that kill onto KHD. It's just not really enough. UT Dallas can coordinate one strike, but you don't really have the lifespan to get more.
And the problem now is, unlike that last map where UT Dallas may have been able to get away, maybe getting a Roadhog to stave off some Wrecking Ball pressure or some other force of nature that could stop this dive, they don't have that capability anymore. They don't have the way to do it here because, again, D.Va is out of play. You can't really get onto different angles. You're relying on a jump hack here just from Kashir to get on and help out the backline if Hermosa and Uber Eats can't get out. So the constant damage here from XCal is so much pressure, and even Rhino being hacked isn't going to be worth much.
Yeah, but it's a really good start. These flanks from Eric and Uber Eats can work out, again, if Uber Eats and Eric's actually go together. You took out KHD before that fight even really began, so UC Irvine didn't have a choice but to back off.
Yeah, and so Dallas is actually able to make do with what they have here, but ultimates-wise right now, Irvine's got big advantage. Mashido has Pulse Bomb, and Rhino's going to have Mines too. Rhino can do magic with the Mines, especially with stalling out point. This time, maybe not stalling, but at least taking at least an offensive angle for this next fight.
You get the disruption going, but again, I needed to see that synergy from UT Dallas. Eric and Uber Eats have showcased that very well so far in this game. That's two, just from the coordination of the Lucio and the Tracer players. However, Otters has decided that he's now a battle Lucio and will take things into their own hands. UC Irvine, they just have the minefields to go ahead and zone. UTD can't quite get towards the objective, but we're seeing a much better look than what we saw in map number 1.
Yeah, at least Dallas has some light at the end of the tunnel here. They're able to at least regroup for the rest of the team and at least try to take care of a few angles that Irvine is trying to surround themselves on, but it's still not enough in the end. Irvine got themselves the fight win. You're lucky that they got rid of the Pulse Bomb and the Mines for it. So going over to the next point here on the Ruins, maybe you're looking at something a little bit different, especially now that you have 3 ultimates on the board.
Yeah, we got some big spending about to be done by UTD. Phone's EMPs have looked really good so far. I don't know if you really want to go for it. You lose your main source of healing, and unless you're going to commit even further to this, I think you're better off for UTD just letting UCI get the first cap.
Yeah, you're better off letting them have it as well, and especially, I mean, you got one in trade. Maybe use a sound barrier to help this out.
Yeah, I mean, Uber Eats a little bit late to save Phone. The EMP never came out. And Eric's really making his mark on this particular game, and UTD do have the first cap. Might even be able to maintain it now that Hermosa's back.
Yeah, and Irvine is not going to be very happy with that fight either because they did get rid of a lot of people with ultimates as well, but they didn't get the fight win in the end, though they will try to make this expensive here. Dallas has 3 ultimates online, EMP, Primal Rage, and Keeps in Rush. If Irvine can find a way to pull out all 3 of them, they've got a fight win considering they have 4 on the board.
XL though pops the visor and spends about 60% of it just running around looking for targets. Not really much of an ultimate if your aim's that good anyways, so that's okay. You do end up finding Hermosa again here before the EMP comes out. Foe knows it's the time to strike, but the follow-up has to get there fast. With Sheer not with much health to spare because the lack of the Kiriko healing from the behind, and UC Irvine 75% and counting. Can they manage to get a flip going here? Because UTD are not willing to relent.
Yeah, but now you have the Mines as well. This makes it a lot more difficult to get in. UC Irvine's going to flip, and XCal, by the way, moving on over from the Soldier to the Reaper instead, trying to make sure that Kashir has no fun whatsoever, even diving in to the team. And Irvine's goal there, again, was to make it as expensive as possible. They got every ultimate out of play, and they even switched it forward. They got the Hazard out, too, to play with Kashir. So now Irvine has the advantage going on to this point. They may even get another Pulse Bomb and a Sound Barrier for it, because look at the difference. Otters is up by at least 20% on Uber Eats for that Sound Barrier right now.
Assuming Otters is able to live, which, yeah, they'll be able to get out. Can't quite say the same for Rhino. Suzu had to be used there more as an insurance factor for the Wrecking Ball. Pulse Bomb now out of Eric, but guess who's the first elimination again? Hermosa had a target on their back the entire game, and Bashiro acting as a bounty hunter, taking out that single target. And UC Irvine, there's not really much that you even need to do. The sound barrier ensuring no one will fall over. I don't even know if UTD can get a touch off of that.
I wouldn't even try. They do have a sound barrier coming up, but the fact that they're pushing you all the way back out towards that spawn area isn't going to be very likely.
Uber Eats is going
to go?
I saw him surfing there. He's in there.
Like a shooting
and
star.
Yeah, there's the contest. I mean, he's alive, too. And that's kind of the big point. I was worried about sending the Lucio, because if UTD are going to win it, you need the sustain of that sound barrier. And Hermosa getting that pick off, I mean, perhaps there's a chance. But again, you don't have the healing of a main support. It has to be on Uber Eats.
Yeah, you've got nothing. You do have a Keaton rush here from KHD, which probably gets used first on this.
Now with the EMP though actually out of phone, and that's enough to get KHD down, but not before Kitsune rush and hit the floor. UTD might not even need the sound barrier. No healing was needed because, hey, you didn't take any damage. Wonderful play from phone, waiting for UC Irvine to be just about to strike, and there'll be all those viruses the meanwhile, and it'll be UTD even out the score.
That was a double virus kill. That was a splash virus kill too, so that was both on XCal and Otters for it. So Irvine finds themselves maybe in a little bit of a pickle now. XCal has switched for the third time this game, already back onto the Cassidy instead, and this is not looking great. Machito also misses the pulse bomb, so that's a big cooldown gone now for UC Irvine. UT Dallas can take full righteous advantage of it now that they have the downpour to stop and the sound barrier to enter.
I don't even think XCal, no, he's here now. He's barely made it towards this fight. He's lost. He doesn't know what to do. He's on his fourth hero at this point. His Sojourn is banned. He's sad, and I get it. And now there's a hazard in your backline. That's also not very fun when you're stuck pulling prickles out of your back for days. And yeah, XCal, again, just the main dive target for UT Dallas, their own punching bag, although it's not necessarily enough. You can get the one target, but UC are fine. They're great at bouncing back.
Okay, I'm not going to complain about the Ana pick too much here because that Ana Bionades are great to force out of Suzu. But at the same time, too, with Uber Eats having the sound barrier being held on for a little while now. Also, there's no Brigitte on your other side, too. So this leaves your Ana wide open. It hasn't even built up to a nano boost yet in about 3 fights. So Hermosa's going to have a little bit of a tough time. If you can build that up, you can at least put it onto the Winston and at least clear out some more space. But again, UC Irvine having control of point and Mines makes this a lot tougher.
Yeah, I mean, Hermosa just can't get to the fight. It literally did before anything legitimate happens. Uber Eats, though, has held on to the sound barrier for several engagements. Now, surely, we see it popped at some point. UC Dallas, though, a little bit hesitant to go anywhere without their honor.
Yeah, and the problem now is that because Uber Eats is holding it on for so long, you have to assume you're using it for an engage, which means UC Irvine can respond in kind since Otters has already built up back to theirs. And again, the Mines and the Deadeye can be your zone outs as well, which means UC Irvine's got all advantages here.
Yeah, and you never want to use a sound barrier for a tempo. It doesn't work a lot of the time, but when you're down with Eric, UC Irvine end up giving up the point. EMP hits the floor, but so does the sound barrier. XCal, though, a little bit of fancy footwork again. This poor grandma is sent back to an early grave. UC Irvine, let's go ahead and clean that up. Okay, with giving up about 27%, and UT Dallas now got to scramble for a recontest.
Yeah, I mean, they won't have a prime range to do this either. I don't think they can even get there, so you might want to just give this up and hopefully you can get to the next point. There's no shot in contesting this. You have a nano boost to use. You don't want to have to invest it in this fight. You're gonna have to find a way to win out here on the next 2 points. So for them, at the very least, UT Dallas has a nano boost. They have a pulse bomb available as well. But the way they're rotating out to Palace, UC Irvine's gonna get prio on this unless this big nano boost can work out for you and Kashir can make that space.
Yeah, you gotta make it worth what you can, but Kashir was kind of booped out to the back line, so it's more so how can you get this Winston back in the picture, which eventually does end up happening with the combination of phones and virus. It's an even fight, 3v3, no supports though for UT Dallas and UC Irvine. They can care less if they have healing. Mashiro and Rhino can sustain themselves, especially if you're gonna just bang Eric on the nose there. Pulse bomb, not sure if that was needed, but it certainly sends a message to phone for picking Sombra on this level.
Yeah, I mean, when you get the 50%, 50% damage spread on the pulse bomb, you might as well use it to your advantage whether or not it stinks. But for UT Dallas, now they've got nothing on the board besides a Primal Rage, but a Primal Rage doesn't do you anything. And Otters and Uber Eats going toe-to-toe on a sound barrier means that, again, UC Irvine having it. And quickly, as I say that too, remember about 2 fights ago where Rhino had Mines? Well, Rhino's got Mines available again to try to cover this point, and this is not going to look very good unless UT Dallas can cover that all too well.
It's just such a good ultimate. I mean, Kashir's just caught out there, sees all the explosive round, is like, well, this was fun, and just leaps out to their own death. And it's a fight-winning ultimate, to say the least. UT Dallas are going to be left down to one last limb. They have to stop the bleeding now because KHD is making them leave in pain.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, it's a pool of blood right now in front of UT Dallas. They need to find a way to stave off this pressure. Luckily for them right now, they've only got a sound barrier and a Deadeye to worry about coming up, but UT Dallas really only has one ultimate to rely on, and that is phone on the EMP. This needs to be big, or UT Dallas is going to say goodbye to map number 2.
That phone yet to have a bad EMP so far, but she's got to keep it that way.
Stay alive.
Pulse bomb, zone her out, but they don't even get to the point. Not like this, Keegan. Why does this keep happening?
Why does this keep happening to us? Why? for Dallas, they have the right compositions to do it. They're making some swaps that make sense. But the problem is Irvine's still taking advantage of it. So now maybe more a bit of a comfort pick here. Can Dallas turn their fortunes around? There's no more Wrecking Ball to worry about for you, but you also have to worry about not having a Kiriko to rely on if you're trying to engage first, trying to at least interact first. But for UC Irvine, at the very least, now they're off of their main character, but onto Hazard, Rhino will go.
Nope, onto Winton.
Oh,
Rhino
Winton,
will
never
go.
mind.
Kashir
Well, I called it
will
at
go
least.
ahead
I called it
and
at least
keep
that there was
you
going to
did,
be Winton.
you did. You just got baited. You just got baited. It's okay. UC Irvine kind of sniffing out what the comp will be. XCal certainly pleased to be back towards a more comfortable hit scan hero in his signature Ash. But UC Dallas here, again, you're leaving your on an island unless Uber Eats is standing right next to Hermosa, which I guarantee he is not, as we can see on the current screen there. And Hermosa is going to be where UC Irvine are going to look to set up. But in dives like this, you have to get multiple steps, you have to get staging, not only for your Ash, but so your Winston can get to a good spot, so KHD have sight lines, and everything needs to go into its place. So UTD are taking advantage of this high ground control, poking out while they still can.
Yeah, so the good news is that here, at least for Hermosa, well, never mind. I thought Hermosa was actually positioned very, very well, but instead a Dynamite will help you out. That's a good engage.
Yeah, that's about how I expected that to happen. Hermosa just kind of like a turtle poking out of the shell. Like, hey, what's going on out here? Oh, there's a Winston. I want to run. Well, you're back to the spawn, so you certainly went far away. UT Dallas, an unfortunate turn there, but it's kind of to be expected when you're having an on-off play that close on the map. You're considering recontest, but instead we'll just opt to hold the second.
Yeah, and the main thing for UT Dallas is that wasn't as bad of a hold as it could. I mean, I shouldn't say it wasn't as bad as a hold, but Hermosa, if you were in a better position, that would have been a better hold for you because you were having to kind of nade with the rest of the team, but that allowed you to be a wide open target for UC Irvine. And now again for UT Irvine or for UT Dallas, they may be all grouped together, especially with a barrage online. But be careful because XCal, if XCal can just sit back and wait for the barrage to come to UC Irvine, that's probably going to result into nothing right now, and that's a good Bionate, at least for Formosa, to stave off the pressure momentarily.
UC Dallas, they want to get aggressive. Sick of UCI dominating the tempo, and it's a good decision, but here's the thing, you overstep in one place. Mashiro had perfectly wrapped around the behind and grabbed two, thanks to a nice nano loose out of KHD, and UCI, like, you can tell, UT Dallas, we wanted them to take the initiative, they did it, but UCI, we're just waiting for them to take the try.
Yeah, there's a difference between aggressive and too aggressive, because Kashir wanted to go into the back, into where the spawn area was. Your only problem was when you found three back there, you found the rest of your team lying dead behind you, lying just face flat into the ground. So because of that overextension, and Kashir was the only one there, meanwhile UC Irvine is winning the fight even with less people in the back line. Irvine's just finding every single way to take advantage of it, and look how far up they are depending on where the card is right now. Ball spawn goes wide, but Ball spawn actually lands on the phone, which is even worse.
I was gonna say, how did that hit the Pharah
I don't know.
of all players? UTE, that's the majority of your damage gone. They're getting antsy. Uber Eats gonna go ahead and just pop the sound barrier outright, but what can you do? The coach gun completely denies Kashir that initial jump he wanted. Hermosa and Uber Eats are well sent to tomorrow, and UC Irvine are looking to keep one heck of a snowball going here in Kings Row.
Yeah, and this snowball is running down Mount Everest right now. There is really no way that UT Dallas can make a comeback. They haven't even really ulted besides a barrage, maybe even a pulse bomb as well. And yes, the nano does come out, but it's not great. And Uber Eats also expending out the sound barrier doesn't look good for you either. So Phone finally switching over to something that can maybe turn off the dive, which is the Torbjorn, but it might be a little too late. Kashir does have a downpour, which means in this very enclosed area, that could be a very good thing. Problem is, you got to follow up on it, and if Kashir oversteps again, that downpour is going to mean nothing.
It's really hard. All UC Irvine are waiting for is as soon as Kashir jumps in, that's when Mashiro and Rhino pull their own trigger and decimate the backline of UT Dallas, and Uber Eats already out of the question. Kashir is out of LOS and Veramosa, so UC Irvine, there's not really much that you can do. The downpour, down to waste, as you called it, Keegan.
Yeah, but again, there's overstepping there, and maybe not overstepping all too much, but that it was above. Kashir's downpour was from up above, which means around the corner, UC Irvine putting on so much pressure, and that pulse bomb landing at Kashir means that they got nothing. They cannot stop this at all. They only went 15 seconds under the 4-minute timeback, Molly. That is insane to think about. They played that game nearly perfectly.
I don't think there's anything that UC Irvine genuinely could have done better on that attack. I have zero critiques for that team, and it's very, very rare that we can say that as casters with how well the positioning was, the staging phases, just identifying when those windows of opportunity open. There's very few teams that can do that, and it's why UC Irvine are amongst the top in collegiate, and right now you can tell they want to be done. Otters thought it was over with last map. At this point, it's starting to look like a victory lap. UT Dallas are going to have to pull out something insane here to turn these tables.
Yeah, I feel like Otters calling GG was just premonition at that point, because UC Irvine right now just putting on all the stops here to UT Dallas. They are trying, and again, I want to stress that I think UT Dallas is trying their damnedest to absolutely try to stave off UC Irvine. It just feels like UC Irvine has been in the driver's seat since the very first fight of this game. There has been nothing really to say about UC Irvine besides maybe a fight or two back on sort of Asa and Ruins, but maybe they slipped a little bit, but otherwise they've been playing perfect since. And now all they have to do is defend now at this point, and if it's a full hold, UC Irvine's going to look a lot better than that 7 rank right now, Molly.
Yeah, we should hear it. It was Red and Thara keeps saying UCI needs to be higher, and if this is how UCI is gonna play, then so be it. I will happily put them higher in my ranking, although I did already have them pretty high, so that wasn't me. UC Irvine, though,
somebody else.
That's not the start that you wanted. This is really, at this point, UC Irvine, there's not, you'd have to like seriously screw up in order for UT Dallas to get a greater time bank than what just happened. So UT Dallas are trying to take initiative, jump scare them so that, hey, we're not out of this yet. It might be down, but we are not beaten. So the soft reset here of Mashiro and Rhino not having too much health, even getting a tick or two is great for the confidence.
Yeah, but the thing is too, unlike UT Dallas, UC Irvine's able to kite off in the very least and get another fight into play. And look, they even get Uber Eats down, which is big.
Uber Eats is down, but you kind of take the trade for Rhino, no? I mean, even if the healing is gone, the lack of point presence from UCI, I mean, Dallas, this is looking a ton better. I think Irvine is starting to get a little overconfident.
Yeah, they might be overstepping boundaries maybe a little bit. They weren't fully regrouped when Irvine, or when Dallas wanted to, or when Dallas had first priority on the point at the very least. Irvine wasn't fully regrouped, so for right now, at least the Anteaters just got to back off currently and make sure that they can regroup. And look at the difference between Kashir and Rhino right now, about 50%. Yes, that's very small to some, but in the difference that UC Irvine's been putting on the pressure, that is kind of big news to you. And look, even the Zenyatta putting on pressure so that UC Irvine can't really dive as far up as they want to.
I know. The space denial is great. Kashir is a lot more careful about staying in the LOS of the supports and also making sure that Uber Eats can be standing next to Hermosa, so it's not just one lonely support just saying, hey, help me. Instead, at this time, it's Xcal who requires the assistance that never exactly came. Stay in front of the support's LOS for too long, and this is the go button for Kashir. All support buttons have been pressed in the lobby, and with no KHD, UC Irvine don't really stand a chance at holding this. This is about to be snowball number 2.
Yeah, KHD, you can't really play Jiggle Peak with a Winston right that close. You can't really do that, unfortunately. If you're going to jiggle the peak the same way, electricity hurts. But, I mean, UT Dallas is making the pressure, and you know why? Because Hermosa switches on over to something that's actually good against the dive here as long as you don't get dived, which is the Zenyatta. And, oh my god, no, you can't die there. Not that close to the point.
She was scouting. A little too much scouting, but, you know, it was scouting. Although the point, I thought for a second there wasn't going to be a contest. The sleep dart on Mashiro, that helps a little. Xcal's Bob, though, just kind of exists on the point. There's not a whole lot that you can really do about it. And Mashiro's just going to get himself staggered. So UT Dallas, not an ideal situation for them here.
Well, as long as they don't realize that, I mean, they're kind of staggered out. You still have a mega health pack, and you have a prime range to use as well.
Oh, the EMP! I didn't see that phone was even back at that point. Rhino's like, oh, a lonely Winston? I got this. Nope, you're hacked. Not a shot in the world. UT Dallas should just go ahead and get this cap here. And now, Otters beat it! That was a sound barrier out of Otters that only hit the Lucio player. Things just went from bad to worse. And you know how I said something would have to seriously go wrong for UT Dallas to beat that time bank? This might just be it.
Yeah, that might just be the wrong. And Otters also, too. To the sound barrier's point, Otters, it wasn't a bad sound barrier idea. It's just that there was a Winston shield in front of it. So you don't catch the other two. That's the unfortunate part of it. So now Honor switching on over to the Brig, which is a good counter dive to the point of Kashir doing absolute work right now. Now Uber Eats and Eric have their ultimates. Nano boost onto the Winston still can be big for you, but the only problem is now KHG will have one in return, so it'll be Nano Winston versus Nano Winston if this gets to that point.
You see Irvine yet to win a fight here on this attack, and Eric might make sure it stays that way. It is a 1-for-1 trade. These Winstons selling each other into the back lines, and so far, it's the synergy of Rhino Mashiro who has come up superior. But KHG going down, though, the healing certainly taking a hit on both sides with the defensive spawns as close as they are. It should be the Anteaters able to stabilize much faster.
Yeah, every single trade fight you have from this point on is going to go the way of the defensive end, so UC Irvine gets that and gets back quicker than UT Dallas in their spawn points, so it won't quite get around the final stretch, but now UC Irvine can feel a little bit more comfortable that they can stall a little bit more if it needs to come down to that. Rhino has a Primal Rage, Machito also has a Pulse Bomb if that can land onto something like in Honor to maybe force out the Transcendence too. So Hermosa's got to be really, really careful about where you use the Transcendence.
Yeah, a lot of pressure. The timing of the specific ultimate, Mashiro might attempt to force, just by the Pulse Bomb, or just, okay, never mind, you don't get to use it. There's the Pulse Bomb. That one doesn't really hit Uber Eats. The payload was moving throughout most of this, so this is more so UC Irvine regaining their footing and burning time off this clock, denying UTD at least a greater time.
Yeah, the good news is you get rid of the Pulse Bomb at the very least from UC Irvine, and UT Dallas is able to hold on to a lot of their ultimates through Transcendence included with Primal Rage and EMP, so the EMP is big. They also have a Pulse Bomb, so 4 ultimates online for UT Dallas. UC Irvine staring down the barrel of 4 as well, but it's got to be very, very well timed because this could very well be final fight if everything goes right, and everything's got to go right for UTD.
I can see Phone lining up an EMP. It's onto Rhino. Blow up the Winton is the name of the game, and he will pop like a balloon. UT Dallas sending it forwards at full steam. And with the Bob into play, it doesn't matter if Eric blows your backline to smithereens. Beautiful Pulse Bomb out of UT Dallas's Tracer player. And he managed to live a little bit of a late bio nade. Yeah, UCI, they got one more touch.
They got one more touch. In fact, with Rhino on the Primal Rage as well, they can regroup here as long as he uses it right away.
That would be the Primal, almost instantaneously needed to live. The Nano Boost onto XCal helped burn away some of that health, and with the work Mashiro put in, it doesn't seem that the Comets are going to check home just yet.
Not just yet, but at least Irvine still has a Pulse Bomb to maybe save some grace as well. And Phone's going to get staggered out too, which means that now this is also Kashir staggered. It's not too bad from you. You do get a few ultimates out of Irvine, which is big on the Nano and the Primal Rage, but you got to be careful. Pulse Bomb, I mean, if Eric can do a Pulse Bomb like that, so can Mashiro if it lands very, very well. But Uber Eats coming up on a Nano Boost as well means that UT Dallas has advantage if Kashir can get a lot of damage done along with an Orb of Discord if Hermosa stays alive.
Hermosa already taken out a half HP. You can tell the targeting was there. But Mashiro recognized the ambitious play as that was. Recall has been forced. But this is the play UTD wanted to make. Actually ground-stomping XCal and pancake somewhere in this map, and even managed to tickle down Mashiro. All the meanwhile, DPS line is dealt with, and we never even got to see the Pulse Bomb come out. UT Dallas, they're taking initiative just like we knew that they could. It wasn't a matter of execution. It was a matter of timing. Minute 07 here. UT Dallas are doing their best to keep this one competitive.
They're trying their best. The differential right now, 2 minutes and 38 seconds. So Dallas will see another attack. Irvine will as well. And you figure that if Dallas can keep this the same way that UC Irvine did, well, there might be a little bit of a ray of sunshine for you. Especially if you can get that attack similarly to what you did in the first round. But UC Irvine knows that they have to adjust. At the end of that, though, they just wasted ultimates that they didn't need, that kept UT Dallas in it. And at the very least, Hermosa staying alive with that Orb of Discord and Kashir getting the Nano Boost from Uber Eats too. Big play for you, and UT Dallas now can see at least some light. Now, can they get out of the tunnel is the better question, because UC Irvine knows that they can adjust on it, and now this time around, you don't have to worry about Otters maybe missing a sound barrier or getting the sound barrier stuffed by a shield. Instead, you have a rally to work for. You have a rally to stave off if Kashir is going to dive into your backline. And if Phone, I mean, I know this is probably a bluff here with the Symmetra, but I mean, I wouldn't hate it all too much. Maybe you get those turrets in the back line, making sure Machito doesn't have all too much fun if you're UT Dallas. But at the same time, for Irvine, they just got to find a way to play exactly like they did on the defensive end towards the end of that attacking side, because they looked pretty good. Problem is, spawn points don't actually go in your favor this time.
Yeah, no, not quite. But realistically, it's only about 2 fights that UCI need to win. 2 fights maximum, maybe 1.5, depending on how long UTU takes to set up. The TP from Phone is just an excuse to get your team where they need to be faster, and she'll be going back over to that Sombra that we've been used to seeing from her throughout this series so far. Formosa set up on the high ground, and just a reminder, everybody does get perks. This is an overtime round, so those don't need to be built up, making some things a lot more threatening than they were before. Sheer experiencing that firsthand with how low their health bar got, and with the amount of time it's taking UTD to set up here, Keegan, it's going to be just one fight.
It's going to be a dry fight here. They really can't do anything about it anyways, and if they were build up to an ultimate, it's going to be the Tracers that get their first, and Mashuda clearly ahead by 30%.
Oh, the nade from downtown! We saw how low XCal got the Zen player in KHG as one heck of an arm on him, threw it in, and UTD suddenly, that will be the first domino falling over, and you're gonna have to get yourselves a last-second touch. Or goes over to the Juno, attempting to be fast towards this point. Not really much of a chance to do so. I believe it's Phone staggering out this objective as much as she possibly can, but you're rather limited. Just as one Sombra, low indivisibility cooldowns. UCI have guaranteed themselves either a win or a draw.
And the problem there, too, is that UC Irvine finally spotting down the barrel of a Brigida that stops any and all dive potential. And like you were saying earlier, that nade from downtown as well, landing on maybe one or two, but that's enough to make sure that UT Dallas doesn't have enough time to set up. They don't have enough time to get a dive target, and they don't have enough time to find a pick. The big thing there for UC Irvine, Otter's coming up clutch, especially making sure that that dive potential from UT Dallas is at least caved off even more. And with only 1 minute and 7 seconds, that's all you needed to do. Dry fight and all, and UC Irvine getting a big play and a defensive hold. And now, Molly, they've got nearly 4 minutes, nearly the entire time bank here to get a tick. I mean, UT Dallas, we were saying earlier that they need to make something big happen and something needs to go wrong. Well, something really needs to go wrong here if we get a draw.
Yeah, you're asking a lot out of this team. I think how quickly UCI was able to snowball this first attack, and you gotta remember, keep your supports safe, tuck them in a nice corner pocket at home where they're comfy. Do not let any windins get eyeballs on them, because otherwise they're about to get fried by a Tesla cannon. UC Irvine, I mean, you're asking a lot to get at least just one tick here. That's all you need, and XCal might even be able to get it if anyone dares to peek their heads out.
Yeah, and the main thing, too, is Hermosa's not on a Brigida either, which means UT Dallas is a very good opportunity to just dive onto anything. And yeah, if a Widowmaker finds one here, you can just call it game. But now that Hermosa's on a Zenyatta, you just got to make sure that Zenyatta stays alive, because this Orb of Discord needs to do work for you. Otherwise, this is just going to be a very, very quick 345.
Even KHD ended up taking the on a headshot perk, not even going for the strike. That's how quickly he thinks that we're going to see UCI win this point. He just wants to go for that extra diamond. He's not even waiting for the ultimates. We'll see if that really matters, though. Opts to go for the rotate, has the Brig in the back. Bionade, though, the timing just a tad off from where Kashir has to retreat more towards his support. Yeah,
and you were talking about the headshot perk as well. In an overtime situation like this, you always have to think about the timing. You always have to think of, am I going to be able to have enough time to build up to a nano boost? Maybe this time, maybe not, but look how far out this Winston is. That might be game.
Oh, Kashir, I saw the vision, but he just got a little bit too greedy. Otters and KHD, one of the best on a Brig backlines that you can possibly find, and he figured that out firsthand. Has to be a touchdown to keep this one alive, and UTD, I mean, they got a couple kills to back it up.
Wait.
Uber Eats, what in the world? That's a second now, just to him. The touch has to continue. Kashir dancing in and out of the bubbles, waiting for these plays to come online, almost as a primal rage, but Uber Eats not in an ideal position. He burned down Rhino, perhaps. UT Dallas, no! They got off the point at the worst time possible. UTD, they had it. They looked like it could be possible. Yet it will be the Anteaters booking their ticket to the CECC Texas May Madness.